Hello, thank you for choosing to watch this video. Welcome to part 2 of What If Fantasy Kits, Gerry Anderson. We'll start off with a rarity, which is the altaris, and this was from a 1-hour TV special that was done for a science educational program called Into Infinity, and this was the Day After Tomorrow episode. Or it may have been a series called The Day After Tomorrow, and this was the Into Infinity episode. This ship was designed by Martin Bower, who was very instrumental in creating the spaceships for the TV series Space 1999. He actually designed this ship, and the story goes that he actually thought he was designing for an upcoming episode of Space 1999, which is why the ship has similarities to the Eagle and certainly some of the later craft in that series, the Swift and the Super Swift. You can imagine, much like the Star Trek The Motion Picture Enterprise kit that had rainbow effect decals, for anyone who remember those, this could have had something similar. It could have come with some sort of like stickers or some sort of something that would simulate this kind of like blue chrome look of these solar panels. 1/4 scale kit, which was the same scale as their Saturn V and the space shuttle, and given what I think the size of the ship is, it would have been a kit that came in at about 18 inches. Probably would have been done in the white plastic. You might have got a couple of people to stick in the cockpit, although much like the Eagle, it's got those sort of like blacked out sort of anti-glare panels around there. But anyway, the Altari is a really cool ship and a very seldom seen one-off. Something else which is lesser known than a lot of the Anderson stuff, was a feature film that was made in 1969 called Journey to the Far Side of the Sun. It's also known as Doppelganger. And in the film, there's a manned spaceflight to a planet that is discovered in a parallel orbit to the Earth, but on the other side of the sun. But anyway, this ship is the Dove, and this was the lifting body they used to get from their spaceship in orbit down to the planet, and then vice versa. It's a cool looking ship. The winglets sort of fold down for flight mode, like most of the Anderson stuff. At this time, it was designed by Derek Meddings, who was the visual effects supervisor on the movie, and there's some terrific stuff in the film. This would have to be in the silver plastic. Would just have to be. And, you know, would obviously have the wingtips would kind of move, because that's what kids in the 60s and 70s did. I don't know that you'd be able to get retracting undercarriage, but, you know, maybe. You never know. Anyway, this would make a nice kind of little kit. And that was the first live-action project that the Andersons did. The next one was the TV series UFO. And this is the Moonmobile, or Moonmobile, as they sometimes refer to it in the show. And these were basically stationed on Moonbase with the ladies with the purple hair. Anyway, these Moonmobiles hovered at a pretty low altitude and sort of skimmed along the surface. They're in a few episodes. They don't really do too much, not like the mobiles down on Earth, but they're just a sort of means of transportation. There's one where towing a communication cable, and it's got this kind of like little, you know, gizmo on the back that unrolls it, which is kind of cool. So that might be an optional part that you'd get in this kit, you know, just to make it more interesting, or indeed you could customize it. Because it isn't very big, I put it at 1/32nd scale, because that would probably give it about a, you know, 9-10 inch size model probably, and maybe you'd get like an astronaut figure climbing up the ladder or down the ladder, as well as a couple of the pilots inside. That'd be kind of neat. White plastic, of course, you know, like all their space models. Now, a lot of people may think, I've seen that thing somewhere before, but I've never seen UFO. And that would be because this looks very similar to a thing called the Moonhopper, sometimes called the Moonmobile, in an episode of Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. And in that series, the Moonhopper sort of like jumps, or hops, I guess, across the surface of the moon, and the legs sort of like compress as it touches down, and then it sort of springs slowly up and then, you know, moves along and then kind of lands again, kind of simulating the sort of lower gravity feel, I guess, is what they were going for. But it's very similar in its overall appearance to the later Moonmobiles, and, you know, it's a pretty funny looking thing, really. And there's two versions. It appears in 2 episodes, and the one that's pictured here is from Crater 101, where it transports this thing called the Lunar Tractor, which kind of comes out of that cargo area in the middle there. And the first episode you see at Lunarville 7, it does not have that. So again, that may be like an optional part that you'd get in the kit. But this is a 1/76 scale. So I think as a kit, it would probably come out about the same size as the Shadow Moonmobile, but it's much bigger in scale, because Captain Scarlet, Captain Blue, and Lieutenant Green transfer into the Lunar Tractor, and This is presented in a kit to represent the battle scene. I wanted to do something kind of like a dogfight double, but I couldn't think of what a dogfight double would be called if it was land vehicles. If anyone knows, please put that in the comments. But anyway, this is again from Crater 101, and it's the lunar tractor, which has a kind of a gun on top because they use it to get into the Mr. on base they've discovered. And the Mr. on defenses are a pretty weird looking bunch of things. There's a control ship, which I don't have here, and then these other things, which I don't know, I've called them Mr. on Defenders. There could be attack craft. I don't know. They kind of look silly, but they're kind of cool in a way. And you could imagine a sort of a slightly bigger budget episode of Doctor Who featuring these things. So I called it a Mr. on Defender because it's defending the base, but I don't know what they're really called. They don't name them in the show. But again, this would be in 1/76 scale, and the tractor would be maybe 4 inches, 5 inches long maybe. So the size of like a regular, 76 scale tank AFV, which is why I did this in 76th, because that's the scale for those sort of smaller tanks and things. I don't know why they're not 72nd like the planes, but anyway, 76 seemed like the right thing to do because they are sort of tracked vehicles. It seemed like a bit of fun. The other vehicle that's featured in Crater 101 is the lunar tank, and this is something which carries this sort of bomb to destroy the Mr. on base. This is very much modelled on the Tiger Joe tank. For more on that, check out my Caterpillar Tracks video. But this is kind of a cool vehicle. Again, this would be in 76th scale. So you could have this and the Crater 101 double pack and the Moonhopper sort of all in scale together, which would be kind of fun. Sticking with Captain Scarlet, and another really memorable episode is when Captain Scarlet and Blue go to this training camp in Australia to investigate why these Spectrum hovercraft are crashing. And it's just a really cool looking thing, and we should have been in more episodes because it just looks really kind of neat, and as it sort of bounces along down the desert highways where they're training for it. So it seemed like a great candidate for a kit. The cabin looks, to me, identical to the cabin on the lunar tank. So I don't know which model came first, but I imagine whichever one came first was cannibalized and the cabin was used on the other one. Staying on Earth with flying machines, but with Thunderbirds, this is the type of helijet that was used in a couple of episodes as kind of like a news reporting aircraft. But it's just a really neat looking thing. This image of it I've put in New York City, sort of on the day they're moving the Empire State Building. I don't think you actually see one in that episode, but in the world of Thunderbirds, it certainly would have been there, and you can certainly imagine it would have been, because that was sort of the world they created, was very believable with all these ancillary craft. So this would be a pretty decent size 1/72nd scale kit. White plastic, probably, maybe grey, maybe silver plastic, maybe blue. Who knows? It's one of those sort of funky civilian things, kind of like the Rotodyne. It's probably like, it would be most like that fairy Rotodyne kit they did, which I think had some sort of seats inside for passengers and a couple of pilots. As I said before, Thunderbirds had a great world, a very believable, consistent world that existed outside of the vehicle in danger of the week. And something that appeared in a couple of episodes was the monorail. And instead of thinking about, wouldn't it have been great if there'd been a kit of the monorail? Yeah, it would have been. But what would have been really great is if there'd been a Hornby train set of the monorail. How they would have done that, I don't know. But that's what this imagines and dreams. The packaging here, it's got a picture of the monorail train itself, and then some of the track, which I imagine to get it to stand up, it'd have some sort of like green or sort of earth-like bases that the supports would stand in, and then the track sort of hangs off that. And I figure, certainly nowadays, you can get really small motors, and I'm sure you could probably do something with magnets. But yeah, it sort of hangs off this rail, and if it had motors in engine at the front, and then the other coaches, maybe if everything was sort of powered, it could drive itself along. Or it would be tough to do, but man, would it be just the greatest thing to have one of these as an electric train that you could drive around a track. Just be so much fun. And it's a great looking thing. Another brilliant Derek Meddings design. It looks great and believable at the same time. Yeah, it just would have been fun to have this train set as a kid or as a grown-up, and any one of these kits would be so much fun. Anyway, that's about it. Just going to wrap it up there. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for tuning in. There's more artwork on my website and more videos on my YouTube channel, and more coming soon. So thanks very much for watching. See you soon.